Hello, and welcome to Dumpster Diving, the podcast where myself, Brandon Barber, Logan Porter,
Hi.
and Nate Hampton
That's me. Follow me on MasterNate17 on Instagram.
talk about whatever the hell we want. Logan, do you want to talk about yourself?
I suppose. My name is Logan Porter. I'm an actor. I work for 128 Productions. See us on Instagram or YouTube under that name. And I'm glad to be here.
All right, Nate.
I'm Nate Hampton. I like movies, I chill, and that's about it.
And I am Brandon Barber. I like movies, games, technology, music, whatever you can probably think of.
Definitely, I think we should start off with our movie list for 2019.
Yeah, I agree.
All of us had written down at least 4 to 5 movies that we'd want to talk about for our first episode. I think you should go first and talk about your movies, and we'll all throw in our opinions as you talk about them.
You do? I don't know. I was the least set up for this. I think Brandon should go first when he's talking about the movies.
Oh, me. Okay. All right. My runners up for the best movies in 2019 are Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Lighthouse, Peanut Butter Falcon, Uncut Gems, and Ford versus Ferrari. And out of those, my best movie of 2019 is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay. Interesting pick. My runner-ups, it's definitely The Lighthouse, directed by Robert Eggers, starring Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Margot Robbie, and Knives Out, starring Ana de Armas. I don't know how to pronounce that. I hope I'm not butchering it. And Daniel Craig and Chris Evans. There's a lot of different actors in that movie, so I don't feel like I should point out all of them, just the main 3 that I enjoyed the most. And then I put Shazam on here because I think we could definitely talk about a lot of different things with Shazam as well.
Yeah, Shazam's one of those movies that surprised me this year, especially considering DC's track record.
All right, Porter, I think you should go over what movies you did list, and then we'll all talk about one of those.
Okay, well, my top movies of the year were, runner-up to the best are Glass, which is my least favorite out of the bunch, which is done by M. Night Shyamalan, and it's the sequel to Split and Unbreakable. We've got Rocket Man, which is the musical about Elton John's life, starring the very talented Taron Egerton. Joker, of course, which is everywhere right now, with Joaquin Phoenix, directed by Todd Phillips. And then my top pick of the year was Knives Out, which, as previously mentioned, is star-studded and directed by Rian Johnson, who I'm pretty sure also did the last Star Wars movie, Last Jedi.
That he did.
Well, neat. I actually didn't know that. Finally, he made something that I didn't hate.
Ooh.
I actually thought The Last Jedi was pretty good.
Let's not talk about The Last Jedi in this podcast, or we're going to have some very conflicting views.
I mean, we're going to have some very conflicting views later on, but that is yet to be seen.
So, I think I should start off with, I kind of really want to talk about The Lighthouse for a minute, if that's chill with everybody else. So, it's directed by Robert Eggers, which also directed The Witch, which came out, I think, sometime between 2018 and 2017, I believe. But I'm almost positive it was 2018. I can't really remember right now. But it stars Robert Pattinson, who previously was in the Twilight Saga and the new movie Good Time. Well, it wasn't really that new. I think it was like a few years ago as well. But he was pretty good in that as well. Willem Dafoe, which we all know who Willem Dafoe is at this point. They both play a character with the first name Thomas, which kind of shows that they could be the same person, maybe. And that's a good thing I like about this movie. It keeps you guessing on. You can like have many different theories about it, and I think that's great. Their charisma on screen is fantastic, and that's something I never would have expected out of Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe. Just like polar opposites, basically. And the fact that they're both on just this island with a lighthouse, and I think that shows a lot as well. And I feel like I should bring up the aspect ratio as well, which is 1:19 to 1, and it's black and white. So I think it didn't take me out of the movie at all the whole time I was watching it, and I think it actually added more to the film to set it in that time era as well.
Yeah, The Lighthouse was runner-up for me for Best Movie of the Year. Whenever I went to see it, I was amazed. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't even really want to go see it. But the aspect ratio threw me off at first. But once we got into it, I didn't even notice it. I think if I hadn't have enjoyed Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as much as I did, then The Lighthouse would probably have been my number one pick. Willem Dafoe in this movie is absolutely fantastic. I've never seen him in a better role than I have in The Lighthouse.
I completely agree. I don't know. He was pretty fantastic in Aquaman. I really loved him as who the fuck did he play?
Nudius Volko.
Okay, I don't know who that is, but he was
He's Aquaman's Alfred.
Aquaman was Oscar-worthy performance by Jason Momoa.
It was. And did you see the visual effects that they did on their hair?
Oh yeah, it was fantastic. It really looked like they were underwater.
I know, it was amazing.
Are we going to shit on Aquaman for a while, or are we going to talk about...
No, we're going to move on.
Because
I want to talk about... No, that's good. I want to talk about the pacing of The Lighthouse as well. Over time, it really starts to build tension, even from like the very first scene. There's even from the first scene, there's a horn that plays on the island, and it is the most haunting noise you will almost ever hear. Like, it is freaky.
And it continues to play throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, so talk about tension building for, I don't even remember how long the movie was. I was that invested the whole time. I never felt a dull moment the entire time I was in the theater.
The Lighthouse is only an hour and 50 minutes long.
Oh, okay. So it's not even a 2-hour flick. Dang, it felt like it went on for a while.
It did.
See, that's also one of those movies where even from like the first scene to the second scene, it almost seems like a lot of time could have passed in between those as well. You don't really know how long they've been on that rock.
I know.
You really don't. You don't have a single clue.
We're going to try to stay spoiler-free throughout this for these movies, just in case someone hasn't seen them. But there's one scene in The Lighthouse that took me out of the movie a little bit. And that was, not going to spoil the scene, but there's these CGI tentacles that show up. And they look so bad that they took me out of the movie. Just a little bit. And then it got flung right back in whenever it got back to Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
His performance is it's a masterpiece of filmmaking.
Yeah, I actually 100% agree with you. I think that I honestly want to praise Robert Eggers for everything he did in this film, because I really like The Witch as well. It had a lot of the same different themes, kinda, but not really. This was very heavy on mythology as well. Like, there's totally so many different themes. And I definitely think Robert Pattinson, I don't know why. I liked Willem Dafoe a lot in this movie, but for some odd reason, Robert Pattinson drew me in more to his character. Maybe that's just how I saw it, but I don't know. I think this is the best role he's ever been in as well.
Ooh, strong word.
This movie makes me excited for whenever we see Robert Pattinson as Batman. I was highly skeptical about whether he would do a good job or whether he was a good actor in general before this movie.
Well, the last time you talked about Batman, you said you didn't give a shit about that movie.
Yeah, I still really don't, but I think he could do a good job.
I personally am very excited for the next Batman movie. He's really grown on me as an actor, and I know he wants to get away from his past of being in Twilight and shit like that. So I definitely think he has the potential to be the best Bruce Wayne we've seen on screen already. From how I hear him talk about it, he seems to understand the character pretty well. I think he's definitely going to give his heart to be the Batman, and I think that's going to be great for him.
Yeah, now we just have to hope that Warner Brothers decides not to fuck with it.
Honestly, yeah. We totally went off topic there for a little bit because I wanted to talk about Once Upon a Time for a second as well. Yeah, this is directed by Quentin Tarantino, the man, the myth, the legend. We love him. Starring Brad Pitt as Cliff Boone, Leonardo DiCaprio as Rick Dalton, and Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate. Not to be confused with the god-awful Hilary Duff in The Haunting of Sharon Tate, where they just exploit a murder for like an hour and a half. The pacing of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood kind of threw me off the first time I saw it because I really wasn't paying attention. I was also sick when I saw it the first time, so it kind of threw me off. That's the same thing it did with It Chapter 2 the first time I saw it, but I still don't like It Chapter 2 as much. I will say the building to the very end of the movie is legendary, and when that pays off, it's really satisfying as well. And I want to talk about Leo for a second as well, because I think Brad Pitt was the character that I drew to more than Leo, which is weird because I typically like Leo more. But I think watching him throughout the movie struggle as a failing actor is very interesting considering the position that he's in. And and I think this movie got a lot of controversy as well for no reason, because obviously things didn't happen in the movie that happened in real life, like the Bruce Lee shit.
I didn't actually see a lot of controversy around the movie.
I remember the Bruce Lee's family was giving the movie tons and tons of shit for representing Bruce Lee the way that they did.
Bruce Lee's daughter was extremely upset. She was up in arms, and she was very angry at Quentin Tarantino for the way that Bruce Lee was portrayed as being in the movie.
I wanted to talk about the build-up and everything like that, and overall, I think it's definitely the biggest surprise of this year. I knew it was going to be. I knew from the very beginning it was probably going to be great from the trailer. But then again, that's not a very good alibi nowadays, because half movies are just made for the trailer. Just get your ass in the seat and pay the money to watch it. But no, it's definitely the biggest surprise to me, because I was hyped for The Lighthouse as soon as it got announced. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood really struck me in a different way, and I definitely loved it way more than I thought I was actually going to like it.
Yeah, it was a fantastic movie. All right, Logan, what's your movie of the year?
My movie of the year is Knives Out, directed by Rian Johnson, who, as previously mentioned, directed Last Jedi and is known because of that. This movie is done really well. It's about a detective investigating the death of the patriarch of an eccentric combative family. And in this movie, you get powerhouse performances from every single star in it. I mean, every character is believable. They're just the worst family in the world. And when the head of the family dies, which that's not a spoiler, it's in the trailers, everybody knows it, Daniel Craig shows up as this detective. And the movie's pacing is really good. It turns a lot throughout the movie. It keeps you interested, and there's a good blend of serious moments with the dramatic. And I had to say, early on, it throws in a couple of turns that I really wasn't expecting. But all in all, I thought the movie was fantastic, and I was absolutely astonished with it.
I can 100% agree with you. The one that really shocked me, I know Daniel Craig is a fantastic actor from 007 and stuff, but he played Detective Blanc. And he had this really cool, like, southern accent, kind of. But the one that blew me out of the water the most was, I really hope I'm saying her name right, Ana de Armas. I think that's how you say it. But she played Marta, the basically caretaker for the old man that got murdered. She blew it out of the water for the movie. She carried it for the most part. I will say every single character definitely did their part in the movie, and it really did keep you guessing. And like you said, there was tons and tons of turns to where I didn't even know. All my theories were like, what is going on? I have no idea. Chris Evans especially, I was expecting him to be not the best, because I haven't really watched any of his other shit beside being Captain America. I was definitely kind of surprised by him.
He's got the Captain America movies, and then what? Fantastic Four and Not Another Teen movie. So he doesn't have a ton of performances, but this was... It definitely stood out from everything we've seen from him.
Exactly. And Daniel Craig especially, he was mind-blowing in this movie. And every time he was on screen, I could just, you could see him doing this thing where he's such a good actor. When he was picking apart things, like he was solving an actual mystery, on set. It was really cool. Even whenever it's just random scenes, you always see him looking around, analyzing shit. He did a really good job. And Marta did a fantastic job as well. It's just, I loved every single one. And Michael Shannon especially. I have so much respect for that man. From Man of Steel being the biggest piece of shit movie. Honestly, I cannot stand Man of Steel anymore. He went from that, and he's always been an incredible actor. It's just like I was like, why the hell did he do Man of Steel? But he did really well in this movie.
I'd like to agree with you. In the movie, he walks with a limp and he's got a cane, and he's threatening though. He's super threatening in this movie, despite the fact that he's older and he's not in like his prime. And I have to say, it's not just him. Jamie Lee Curtis also.
Yeah,
Is
she
just
carried herself.
threatening.
She carried herself as a very like dominant person throughout the whole movie because she's kind of like the mother of the house, and that I cannot remember the other girl's name, but she was kind of like the drunk aunt, and Michael Shannon kind of played this kind of like the creepy uncle kind of role. And there were kids in the movie too. There was the kid from It, the kid who played Bill. He was in it, and the girl who played in that
His name
Netflix show,
is
13 Reasons Why,
Jaden
was in it.
Martell.
Okay. They were all good for the scenes they were in. It's just they weren't in it as much, but weirdly enough, you knew why they were there and what their purpose was. And the story wasn't focused on them barely much at all. So, I don't know. It's definitely one of my favorites of the year, though. I put it on my list for a reason.
I have not seen it, so.
All right. I think that should we talk about Shazam or should we move on to probably the biggest controversy that we're going to talk about?
Shazam was one of the movies of the year that impressed me only because it was decent as a DC movie. That's all I have to say on it.
Okay. I'm gonna praise David Sandberg a little bit, the director. He did a fantastic job picking up this property, which he's never handled anything this big before. Warner Brothers said, "Here, do it," and he knocked it out of the park. I think giving Zachary Levi the lead role as Shazam was fantastic. He knocked it out of the park as well, and Asher Angel played Billy Batson, and the fact that they can both act like the same person was great as well, because I was really hoping. I mean, I wasn't hoping. I was nervous that Zachary Levi was going to play the childish role too childish compared to Asher Angel, because he was kind of more edgy teen in the trailer compared to Zachary Levi, who was 100% childish the whole time. But no, it made sense, and it definitely was believable that it was the same person. And Jack Dylan Grazer, Freddie Freeman, was a great side character as well. He did a great job teaching him how to be a superhero and shit among like, and this is still connected to the DCEU with Henry Cavill and shit. So that was interesting. I feel like the DCEU doesn't know where they're at right now, and I don't have a clue either. I just kind of hope they make solo movies from now on. Also, Mark Strong as Dr. Sivana was pretty good as well. He definitely could have had a little bit more screen time. Other than that, I didn't really feel much for him, but he was definitely threatening to Billy Batson the whole time.
Brandon, do you have any comments on any of that?
I thought that it was a fine movie. It doesn't come even near close to my movie of the year list. But, I mean, I saw the movie twice. It didn't really do anything for me. That's all I have to say pretty much.
Okay,
That's fair.
I've got something I'd like to say. I thought the movie was excellent. I think it's a great movie. It's definitely one of the best DC movies. I was not impressed because it's super hard to mess up a character like Shazam. I mean, there's only one real direction you can go with that, and they nailed it. But once again, DC has a reputation for taking lighthearted characters and trying to make them dark when they should just stick with the lighthearted tone. And they did that, and they nailed it perfectly, but I wouldn't say it's a super impressive task. That being said, everybody in it was awesome. Like you said, Zachary Levi was absolutely fantastic, and Mark Strong made a good DC villain. I would love to see both of them return in the sequels and in the upcoming DC movies.
Okay, I definitely agree. They have a sequel planned out already. I'm definitely excited for that. I think the end credit scene also helped build up for that as well.
Yeah.
All right, I think it's time we move on.
All right. I would like to talk about Uncut Gems for a minute. I know neither of you have seen it, but this movie blew me away. I thought that it was going to be a terrible movie because Adam Sandler is typically not very good in his roles because they're all comedies, and let's face it, Adam Sandler is not that good of a writer. But in this movie, he was just amazing. It's honestly one of the best performances I've seen all year. I would put it above Joaquin Phoenix in Joker, but below Robert Pattinson and Lighthouse. The plot of the movie is insane. It builds up tension throughout the entire movie in a great way. There's these beautiful scenes at the beginning and end of the movie that I don't want to spoil. But overall, Uncut Gems is one of my best movies of the year, and I would recommend anyone see it.
All right, well said, well said. I'm intrigued 100% after what you said, and I really almost said Andy Samberg. Adam Sandler has really went downhill, in my opinion, on what he's been making. Like, I don't know. It's weird. Because I used to like Adam Sandler a lot, and growing up, now I'm like, I don't know. So it'd be nice to see him do more mature roles and stuff like Uncut Gems. So I 100% agree. I think it's time we move on to video games before we talk about our main movie review.
Yeah, I would agree.
Which might be hefty.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait for that.
So I think we should start off with our top 3 of the year that came out this year. So Brandon, I think you should spout yours first.
All right, for top games of 2019, I have 3 contenders. I have Mortal Kombat 11, Jedi Fallen Order, and Luigi's Mansion 3.
All those pretty good. I don't know. I never actually sat through to watch you play Luigi's Mansion 3, yet I've also never been a big fan of just, I don't know. When I was a kid, I loved Nintendo, but nowadays it's like, I don't know, I've fallen completely off and not enjoying any of it. And I'm sure they're great games. I just haven't taken the time to get back into them. So, yeah, I have major respect for how much success has come out of most of them, though.
Yeah, Luigi's Mansion 3 was one of those games that at the very beginning, it was so slow, it almost put me to sleep. In fact, I think the first night I played it, I did go to sleep because it was so boring. But like an hour or 2 into the game, it just blew my socks off. That happened with Red Dead Redemption 2 as well, so.
Nice. So my order is very similar, and I kind of only had 2 that I liked from this year, and that, of course, is Mortal Kombat 11 and Jedi Fallen Order, and I honestly threw in Modern Warfare just because I liked COD a lot growing up, and I liked it seeing going back to its roots, because normally you wouldn't want to go backwards, you'd want to move forwards. And moving forward didn't work for them, so they went back. And I'm really happy with what they came up with, and I think it's nice having the COD community back to being toxic as ever. So yeah.
Yeah, I haven't played Modern Warfare, but from everything I've seen from streamers and stuff, it just looks amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to play it.
Jedi Fallen Order I just finished, and it's very close to MK11, and MK11 has been getting very dull recently because there's only so long you can go and play a fighting game without new content. But Jedi Fallen Order has a fantastic story, which I was not expecting at all from EA, but mostly Respawn did all that. And Cameron Monaghan, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He played Cal Kestis, Monaghan. He did a fantastic job with the motion capture and the acting for Cal Kestis, and I loved it. He was convincing as a Jedi, and this is probably the best game to be set in the Star Wars canon universe. It actually felt like you were in Star Wars, and it was fantastic, and I loved it.
Yeah, I put Jedi Fallen Order on my list, even though I haven't played through most of the game. The time that I have put into the game has been fantastic. The play style is amazing, even though the graphics on it seem a little unpolished. It looks like EA pushed them a little bit too far there, but the play style of it is just fantastic, enough to put it up there in my top 3.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of Dark Souls and Sekiro, kind of just that. And I think that fit the game really well. It took me a minute to get adjusted to it because I honestly never liked Dark Souls, and I tried playing Sekiro, but it did nothing but piss me off. So, yeah, it took me a minute to get used to it, but I honestly really enjoyed it, and it might actually get me back into figuring out Sekiro, so I can probably appreciate that game more since it got Game of the Year.
Yeah, Sekiro is one of those that I was going to put on my Game of the Year list. it is right below Luigi's Mansion. And only because that gameplay loop is so hard. It's from From Software, and they always make those games. They made Bloodborne, the Dark Souls games, and they're all just ridiculously hard. But they all have their own acclaim to them. And From Software makes amazing games. Sekiro looks beautiful. It's one of the best looking games of the year. And I haven't beaten the whole game yet, but watching speedruns of it, beaten in like 20 minutes after I've spent like 6 hours on the game just trying to get past the first few levels, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I truly applaud all the developers of that game 100%. Mortal Kombat 11, when it was announced, I flipped my shit. I was so excited for MK11. And when it finally came out, and I'm still grinding on this game to this day because I just love fighting games. It's such a different play style compared to MKX. Like, they switched the meter burn button and shit like that, and there's a whole bunch of different attacks and ways to do it. The meters changed. It's crazy. And I definitely think it's suited for the best. I think the game plays more fluently, and I think it's just overall way more fun. I liked a lot of MKX, but I think 11 did nothing but improve, and I don't think it went back at all.
Could I chime in for a second?
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
I love Mortal Kombat 11. I like playing it. I'm obviously not as good as you two, but one of my favorite things about the game is a lot of the visual designs of a lot of the characters in it. It felt very reminiscent of the old school Mortal Kombat 3. I mean, the bright light textures on the costumes, the overall designs of specific characters. It felt very reminiscent of it felt original to some of the characters, and I thought
agree.
it did justice to like the old school arcade versions of these guys. And I thought the story was pretty good too. It was decent. It's hard to do time travel in anything, and as always, Mortal Kombat blends that funny with the violence and the actual, story that's been going for the last couple games. But I thought it was one of the best installments in the series so far.
I definitely agree. I definitely don't think they went back at all and made something mediocre. And the DLC I'm excited about. I'm not hyped on how they are releasing it, but I think it's making the game very dull. There's not a lot of things you can do by yourself as much anymore once they added all the tag team shit and stuff. But they're working on crossplay, and I think that's the best thing they could do at the moment to bring more of a community together to play the game. And I applaud them for that. I think it's a good time to.
All right, I would like to chime in here.
Yeah.
Okay, Mortal Kombat 11 was my first introduction into really getting into a fighting game. I have played Injustice 2, Mortal Kombat 10 and 9, and none of those did anything for me because whenever I got into all of them, people were too good already, and it was hard for me to rise up and get into it. But Mortal Kombat 11 just blew me away. The graphics in it look amazing, even coming from Mortal Kombat 10, which already looked good. And the playstyle of Mortal Kombat 11 brings me in more than anything else has in the fighting combat genre of games. And it was easier for me to learn that than it was for anything else. And I've spent more hours in that game this year than I have any other game. And that is why Mortal Kombat 11 is my game of the year.
Okay. I can agree with that. It's definitely had me the most hype. And I haven't stopped playing it, so I think it deserves that spot on my list as well.
I think there's one other thing that we're missing that makes Mortal Kombat 11 great, is that Smoke isn't in the game. And Smoke is just such a trash character. He's just such a trash character who really didn't deserve to be in the series to begin with. So I feel that really improves this installment of Mortal Kombat.
Oh my god, you are so right.
You know what? I would like to add to that. I think that MK11 actually has gone backwards for adding Kano into the game and any of the members of the Black Dragon clan. I think Kano, Cabal are the worst parts of Mortal Kombat, and they should not have been included. And I
And
think,
Black is pretty shit too. I mean, the Black Dragon in general. I mean, what do they even have to do with it?
all right, Porter, shut the fuck up. We're gonna move on to
Okay, I would like to explain what just happened there. Smoke is Nate's favorite Mortal Kombat character ever, and Kano is Logan's. So they just had a little hissy fit on here.
big old little hissy fit here.
All right, Logan, what's your game of the year?
Probably, I don't know, probably Mortal Kombat 11, just because I didn't get to play any other games, though. So, I mean, I'm not the person to talk to about Game of the Year. Now, Game of the Decade, I might be able to chime in a little bit more, but...
All right, I guess we should move on then to Game of the Decade. And we're gonna start with Logan.
For my Game of the Decade, I have a couple contenders that I really like. And first, I'm going to say Red Dead Redemption 2, because there was so much build to that game. People waited years for that game. And when we finally got it, it was more than what we were promised. The game was beautiful. The characters were just perfect. The storyline was amazing. Arthur Morgan is one of the best video game protagonists I've played ever. And the voice acting and the motion capture and everything behind this game was absolutely phenomenal. And not to mention the landscapes that it created were absolutely stunning. I couldn't have asked for more from one of my favorite production companies. I mean, they've always put out great games. Grand Theft Auto 5 was also fantastic, and that's why it's contending for my Game of the Decade. Also contending for my Game of the Decade. Well, I want to hear your guys' opinions too, because it kind of factors into this one. It's Batman Arkham City.
Oh.
Arkham City kind of built the way for every superhero game to come after that. I mean, Asylum was the stepping stone, but that's the one that created all of it afterwards.
I 100% agree with you. When we get to my list, it's definitely on there as well. Yeah, I have nothing else to say about Arkham City, but phenomenal. One of the best.
Yeah, I played Arkham City a year or two after it came out because of your request, Logan, actually. And that game just blew me away. I didn't really have any expectations for it because I hadn't heard anything about it up to that point. And I bought it before looking at anything for it, and it just blew me away. I was impressed about everything that they did.
Yeah, so...
Especially the ending. The ending blew me away.
Well, what was so big about Arkham City was that it's hard to do a Batman game. I mean, Arkham Asylum and City kind of laid out the way to figuring out just what you needed to do a Batman game justice. But the game created the fighting style that would be used in all the games from there on out. And even non-superhero games like Mad Max, it's the same fighting style, and it's the same way to drive, and it's the same setup for that kind of world. And Spider-Man, done by Sony, is also heavily takes from the Batman stuff.
Yeah, the Batman games have defined video games almost. It is hard to find a genre of video game that doesn't take from Batman's combat system.
I think I agree. Is that all on your... Is that all of your picks for Game of the Decade, Logan?
Those were the only two that I really had in mind. Okay. Just because I play games, but not as much as I used to. But both of those games were not only great stories, but they were game changers, quite literally.
Yeah, those are two amazing picks for Game of the Year. And if you had to pick one, which one would you pick?
Out of those two? You're gonna have to let me think for a second on that one. I don't know. Out of those two, probably Red Dead, but that's only because it came recently and how advanced it is. You know what? Batman Arkham City is my Game of the Decade because of its fantastic storytelling, its great visuals, and I mean, it's set up the way games are played now.
Batman Arkham City is your game of the decade. That is a fantastic pick. All right, Nate, you want to go through with your game of the decade?
Yeah. So since we're talking about Arkham City already, it's definitely on there. I played this game total of I think like 8 times since it came out. I got it on the 360 and I have it remastered on my Xbox One. I've been playing it just on repeat, replaying. Its combat system is fantastic, and you really feel like Batman when you're playing that game. And I don't know, I just overall enjoyed it. I think the story is phenomenal. I think Kevin Conroy's Batman is fantastic, like usual. Mark Hamill's Joker is also fantastic, and Joker's whole like plot line throughout the whole game is so neat, and I don't think we've seen it before in anything else. It definitely, I think it also helped pave the way for Batman being serious compared to like the Dark Knight and such like that. Like Batman's taken way more seriously nowadays than goofy like he used to be. Even in like '89, when Tim Burton's first movie came out, it was still a bit corny, but it definitely helped understand that this is a serious character.
I think that the Dark Knight movies had a lot to do with that as well. Those came out around the same time.
So I definitely think it helped amplify it as well. My second pick, of course, is Red Dead Redemption 2. It came out, what was it, 2018? Yeah, 2018. It was, oh my god, it was fantastic. And I was so nervous, too, because I really liked John Marston as a character. I still love John Marston as a character. I was just really concerned that Arthur Morgan wasn't going to be able to hold up to the charisma that John had as a playable protagonist. And he really blew me away. And I think that's even better because even in the name Arthur Morgan, if you go back to King Arthur, I think I read this somewhere. The antagonist of the King Arthur storyline is named Morgan something, and then there's King Arthur, who's the protagonist. So in the name Arthur Morgan, you could either play as a protagonist or more of an antagonist, but he always is centered as a good guy with bad decisions or good decisions. And I think that they really thought about this game a lot, and I would definitely wait the same amount of time for a great game to come out by Rockstar again. So yeah, I guess I can go on to my next pick as well. My next pick is Detroit Become Human.
Detroit Become Human? Really?
Yes, I loved Detroit from start to finish. And the first playthrough with you really got me invested in the characters more than it should have. But even then after, just it's phenomenal. I loved all the effort put into that game. All the actors do a fantastic job. Every single one of them. Like, it really is some of the best storytelling I've seen in a game as well. And I have no other words but phenomenal.
Yeah, with Detroit Become Human, I had played role-playing games before, which is probably not what those are called. They're more like mini movies. I don't know the genre. But Detroit really showed us how good one of those games can be. Like, there's other ones, Beyond Two Souls.
There's Heavy Rain.
Heavy Rain and
Until Dawn.
Until Dawn, that's what I'm thinking of. And those all were pretty good games. Heavy Rain, for one, was revolutionary in its time, even though it didn't do everything perfect. And honestly, it's hilarious to play today. But Detroit really got me invested in those characters. As you said, Nate, we played it for the first time together, and I didn't take it as seriously then because I didn't really want to.
Because you're an asshole. Oh shit, my mic is on.
Well, okay then.
My apologies.
Yeah.
I've been turning the mic on and off.
Yeah, Detroit blew me away. I honestly forgot about it for my game of the decade list, but it's a really good game. I wouldn't be surprised if that won your game of the decade list.
Yeah. My next game
You blew
is
City away.
My next game, dude. I love this game to death, and I'm surprised. I don't know if you put it on your list or not, Porter, but Grand Theft Auto 5 came out in 2013, I believe. This is really one of the best games to ever be released this decade because it is still going strong from back when it released. Absolutely fantastic. The story in that game is great, and just the mocap is fantastic as well, and the actors do an incredible job. I loved it so much, so much. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say about GTA 5 for now.
Okay. I really, really enjoyed Grand Theft Auto 5. It was great story-wise, and it's the same thing as Red Dead. With all their games, usually there's some different way that you can alter the ending, so there's usually multiple endings, and I love that game, and the acting in it is what really brings it. I mean, all of the main characters, Michael, Franklin, and Trevor, bring powerhouse performances. They're all great. The actor that played Michael said that he hates video games and usually doesn't do video games because the writing is terrible. But he loved the character of Michael and just fell right into it easily.
Yeah.
I'd agree with you there. I'd say it's definitely a good contender for game of the decade, for a free roam game where you can kind of do whatever you want, get into a great story, or just go online and blow up your friends.
I agree. So, out of all of those, my game of the decade is definitely going to Detroit Become Human.
That is an amazing pick.
All right, so moving on to you, Brandon. We have a bunch of other stuff to talk about.
That we do. So I'm going to try to blow through these as quick as possible while still getting a good chunk to talk about. So my first game of the year is God of War, the 2018 version. That was a remake of the old Greek series done by Sony Santa Monica, and they came back for this one with the God of War 2 director Cory Barlog at the helm, and he decided to take a series that was more about brute force and give it a really good story. And I didn't really have any expectations for God of War coming in. I was excited for it to come out because it looked very different from anything else that I had seen, and it looked sort of like The Last of Us, which is another game I love. And God of War's story pulled me in more than I think any game has so far. And the side character of Atreus is... I'm not a fan of side characters in games, especially like sidekicks that are NPCs, because they just don't work. A lot of the time you have to wait for them. Even in The Last of Us, it's guilty of this. You have to wait for Ellie to come along with you, but Atreus is just amazing. He's actually helpful and useful, and he just adds a lot to it. And the performance that Christopher Judge gives in this this game as Kratos is just phenomenal. It's one of the best performances I have seen in a video game so far, and the story is just remarkable. I recommend that anyone play this game if they haven't, even if they haven't had good experiences with the God of War series in the past. It's just phenomenal.
Okay, I think that's a great pick. Okay, yeah, I haven't played God of War at all. I definitely think it should be on my playlist, but I don't know if I'll ever get around to it. But I definitely think it's a good pick. I've seen gameplay throughs, and you seem to like it a lot, so I think it's a great pick.
I hated the original God of War games, and I hated Kratos as a character. And then I played the newest game, and I agree with you both. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And like Brandon said, Christopher Judge, who, if you don't know him from this, you might know him from like the Stargate series, does a phenomenal job as Kratos and brings a lot of life to an otherwise lifeless character who I didn't give two shits about before. I was invested, and I wanted to see where the story went, and it was a good video game.
Also, I just want to say this for anyone who might be thinking of playing this game. If your father is into video games at all, play this with him. You two will have an extraordinary bonding moment over this game. It's almost guaranteed. And all right, I'm going to move on to my second pick, which is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And I have always been a fan of the Zelda series ever since I was a child. One of my earliest memories is playing Zelda Ocarina of Time on the GameCube. And I was actually nervous about Breath of the Wild taking the series into a open world, but they did it really well, and the game looks beautiful, and it was an experience. I have spent around 300 to 400 hours in that game, 100%ing it, and I just beat it this year, even though it came out in 2018.
I never played Breath of the Wild, so because Nintendo stuff. So
Me neither.
yeah. But besides that, what's your other pick?
My second to last pick is Red Dead Redemption 2, and this is my first introduction into Rockstar, and I agree with everything else that you guys have said on it, so I'm not going to go into it, but it was phenomenal. It made me love Arthur Morgan, and it's one of the best stories that I've heard in a video game. And my last pick, which is sort of an honorary mention because it came out like half of a year before 2010. But my third pick, which I've spent most of the time out of all of this list on, would be Minecraft. And that game it's blown me away ever since I started playing it in like 2009. I spent hundreds and hundreds of hours on it. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah, I can only agree with you. If it was definitely within this decade, it'd be number one on my list too. So out of all of those, which one's your favorite of the decade?
My favorite of the decade would be God of War.
God of War. So it actually turns out we all did have three completely different answers, even though we were all thinking we were going to pick the same one. So that's pretty good.
I didn't think that we were going to pick the same one. Were you thinking that we were all going to pick Red Dead Redemption 2, Logan?
I thought Nate and I both would. I didn't know what you were going to pick. You're weird.
I thought Nate was going to pick Red Dead Redemption 2 as well. I was shocked whenever he picked Detroit. All right. So now that we've all talked about our game of the years, I think that it's worth pointing out that me and Logan have PS4s while Nate has an Xbox One. So basically he's a traitor. But me and Logan are obviously going to get a PS5 with the next gen consoles. So what I want to ask Nate is, are you going to get a PS5 or an Xbox Series X next gen?
I think that I'm going to stick with my Xbox. Yeah.
All right, I thought that you would say that. But then I had a thought. What if Insomniac announces that Spider-Man 2 is going to be coming out within a half of a year of the PS5 debuting?
Well, I will say this. If I could afford it, I would love to have both consoles, because then I feel like I'd be having the best of both worlds. Yeah. But honestly, if I had to pick between which one, I don't know. I have a lot of people I play Xbox on, and PlayStation. It's really, I don't know. It's a split decision for me. I love Xbox. I love most of the controller. Like, I cannot stand the PlayStation controller. It bugs me. But for PS5, like PS5's exclusives and shit, honestly, it's enough to switch me over. So I'm definitely going to stick with Xbox for now. And if I could afford it, I will definitely get a PlayStation.
Yeah, the Xbox controller is truly one of the... I think that it is the best controller that has ever came out. Not specifically the Xbox One controller, because I think it's a little bit too bulky, but the Xbox 360 controller, which was a little bit slimmer than the Xbox One controller, was truly probably the best controller ever made. The Series X controller seems to be going back to the Xbox 360 design, though, so it looks It looks like they're going to be winning the controller games.
Okay. Yeah. I definitely agree with that. I think that we should talk about the thing we were going to talk about at the beginning. We're going to talk about Joker for a minute, because I think this is a split thing between all three of us, truly.
It is definitely a split thing between all three of us. I was actually surprised that Porter did not make Joker his movie of the year.
So, Porter, I think you should spout your thoughts first, and then I think Brandon should go right after you. So, whenever you're ready, Porter, give all your thoughts on Joker.
Liked Joker. I actually started going a second ago, but my microphone was muted. I really liked Joker, and Joaquin Phoenix does an amazing job. He is always bringing in a great role, no matter what he's in. He's just always just kicking ass and taking names when it comes to acting. But I love this movie, and there's a lot of talk. It's supposed to spark other things that are going to happen. The visuals, the style, it made Gotham a dark and gritty place, and setting in the 80s probably helped too, because I mean, the 80s was just a straight up different time, but it has a whole lot of commentary in the movie, and I like that, and I like how Joker plays off of society, and Joker has always been a character who was kind of created, so I thought the movie was a breath of fresh air. It would have been my number one, but Knives Out has lots and lots of things going for it, and this movie has a bunch of things too, but only like one super just kick-ass performance from Joaquin Phoenix. Meanwhile, the other one had just a ton more. I liked this movie a lot, and you can do a whole lot more with an R-rated movie than you can with a PG-13. Like, show the true violence that these characters actually do. I mean, there are scenes in the movie that are grotesque, and people are actually physically upset or disturbed by watching this. And the military put out a freaking warning about this movie, which is ridiculous. But I thought it was a great movie. It's definitely one of my top picks for the year. It was fantastic, and I loved it.
Well said, Porter. Brandon, speak your mind.
You know, I think you should go next, Nate.
Okay, I think that's fair. I will say that a lot of stuff that's going on in Joker is pretty great. I really liked where the story went. I will say it is pretty predictable from start to finish. Sure, a lot of the visuals are fantastic, but I don't know if they're like necessarily like, I wouldn't say fantastic. I would probably say they're pretty good, but I wouldn't say that they're fantastic. That's probably what I meant to say. I will say, since it's shot differently than your standard comic book movie, that it definitely sticks out a little bit more. And also, I will say, because even Todd Phillips said, as the filming of the movie went on, the script changed dramatically, because Joaquin, I feel like, carried this movie on his shoulders, and all the great things that you do see in Joker are mostly like his improvisation and stuff like that. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed the movie, and I've seen it, I think, 3 times, and I really like the score a lot, and I think that she got a Golden Globe and Joaquin got a Golden Globe. I think it's well deserved. I will say, Joaquin as the Joker was great, but that was definitely not my favorite performance of the year compared to Willem Dafoe or Robert Pattinson in The Lighthouse, or screw it, even like Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So I think that sums up my my opinions on the movie. So out of a 1 out of 10, I'd give it a solid 8.
I thought that Joker was one of the most boring movies I have seen this year. The only thing that even saves this movie for me is that it was beautifully shot, and Joaquin Phoenix does a very, very good job in his role. I think that the script for this movie was just not good. A lot of it is just pandering. Well, not really pandering. It's trying to gain sympathy for a man that killed 2 kids on the subway, no matter if they were messing with him or not. and that's not a spoiler. It's in the trailer.
Can I please jump in just for a second?
Absolutely.
Sure, and then I'll continue.
First of all, he defends himself because they physically attack him. There were 3 of them, also. But continue. I'm gonna jump all over your ass when you're done. Just saying.
Oh, I know. That's why I said I should go last. I think that Robert De Niro in this movie does a good job, but his character is totally unneeded. I know that there's a lot of fan theories that the ending of this film, which I will not spoil, is just a dream, but even so, he doesn't make any sense in the movie. And the talk show, or the talk show that he's on is not even good. The jokes that he makes are not funny at all. It's not even believable. And I guess he could be a manifestation of Joker's imagination, but that still doesn't make any sense. I didn't like the side plot with Thomas Wayne. I didn't think that Batman or Thomas Wayne even needed to be in this movie. It just felt like Todd Phillips went into it trying to make an art house film and came out of it trying to make a artsy comic book movie, which is all that this really is. I would put it above Shazam for me. Actually, no. I would say this is probably one of the worst movies that I've seen this year. The only thing that saves it is Joaquin Phoenix and the cinematography. I do think that the scenes that Joaquin Phoenix brought to the movie, such as the fridge scene, as you guys know, and the one where he's laughing that's in the trailer, those are fantastic, and those are probably the highlights of the movie. I just don't think that Todd Phillips was the right director for this project.
The scene where he laughs throughout the whole fucking movie.
The scene where he's laughing coming out of
the dressing room, right?
Yeah, the one in the trailer.
Where he's coming out of the dressing room, going to his boss's office. That's not spoilery. So, Porter, I think you should honestly argue with that. I think.
Do you have anything that you would like to say to Brandon before I lay into him?
Yeah, I do actually.
I also think the ending of this movie was terrible. It was so...
Okay, no, you're done. Nate, it's your turn.
No, let him finish.
I think the ending of this movie was terrible. I don't think it was so predictable. Like, of course that's going to happen at the end of the movie. I saw it coming 20 minutes away. And the end of it, the very, very end, that was a good scene. But the one before that, where he's on the hood of the car, which is also in the trailer, that was stupid. I did think that the scene with him in the cop car was really good, though.
All right, I'm going to start off with the Joker's design in this movie is very, very, very well done, even though it's completely different than a lot of stuff that we've seen. His suit is very reminiscent of I can't even remember what it's called. Oh well, I'll think of it later. But it's definitely a callback to one of Todd Phillips' favorite movies and what the movie's based around. I think it was like King of Comedy or Taxi Driver. I couldn't remember which one it was. I knew it was one of the two. I loved the makeup especially. I think the blue diamonds around the eyes was such a good call. And plus, I don't know, I really like the score a lot too. I feel like you didn't give enough credit to the score. And also...
Oh, yeah, I think the score was very good.
I kind of agree with you about Robert De Niro's performance, but you didn't give any kind of thoughts on Zazie Beetz at all either. And I think that she
was just in the movie because she was the only female that they could find at the time, because other than her, the only female in the movie is his mom.
See, I don't know. I think her being there and him fantasizing this love with her definitely is, I think it's just does nothing but character building for him. And I think it's honestly good. And I was honestly shocked. It's one of the things I didn't see coming, with the twist with her and everything like that. Not getting to the spoilers, of course. But yeah, I definitely think that definitely helped his descent into obviously becoming the Joker, this psychotic man. Yeah, so I don't know. A lot of stuff I did agree with you on about Todd Phillips, and I think Joaquin carries this movie 100%. But yeah,
Okay, about that arc that you were talking about with him and her, I did like that, but at the climax of it, whenever it's getting resolved as well, they go back and play a montage of them together, and I thought that was completely unnecessary, especially because Todd Phillips was trying to make a more gritty, R-rated, artsy film, and it just that felt like hand holding through the plot, and I.
okay, I can definitely agree with you there. I hear Porter stroking out on the other end, so I think we should let him speak.
Oh, for the love of God. Thank you. Brandon, you are one of the most restless people I know, especially when we're watching movies, so I understand why you didn't like this. But you also typically don't like slow dramas, so I wouldn't expect you to like this movie.
I do like slow dramas, actually.
And this movie, shut your hole while I talk. This movie is in no way a comic book movie, and you called it. You said he wanted to make an art house film, but instead made an artsy comic book movie. First of all, artsy is still fucking art house. I mean, it's a very artsy movie, yes, but that's what he was going for. It's not supposed to be some fucking crime thriller. It's a character study, and Joaquin Phoenix does carry the movie, but that's what it was meant to be. And it's about him in the American psyche of what a person facing the real world has to go through when you're not mentally well. I mean, when you feel so alone and just beaten down, and like everybody is against you. And he was physically defending himself from those assholes on the subway, you jackass. But I'm getting off topic. My point I'm trying to make is I don't think you're looking at the movie the way that you should, and you're not giving it enough credit in the ways that it did great things. That being said, I completely disagree with Nate about the visual design of the Joker. I don't like how they keep trying to change the way that the fucking Joker looks.
See, can I say something to counter
Yes.
that and kind of defend myself? I also don't want to see the same thing repeated on screen as well.
I
To
don't
be
want to see
completely
the
fair.
same thing on screen over and over again, but I'm sick of seeing a completely different look every time I see him.
Okay, Jared Leto shouldn't have existed, though.
That's fair.
Yes, Jared's version shouldn't have existed, and I love Heath's, and it's different, but it's different in good ways, but still very recognizable as the character. If you didn't know that this was a Joker movie, you could show a picture of Arthur Fleck to somebody in the Joker costume, and they might not recognize, oh, hey, that's the fucking Joker, because he doesn't look like the Joker, he looks like a clown. And I get it, and it's supposed to be different, but I don't think it's fantastic. I still like it. I don't know. I 100% disagree with you, Brendan, though.
Well, that's fair.
Well, no. I say I 95% disagree. I will say that the Flash thing with the hand-holding was kind of fair. I didn't think it was necessary to be like, oh, she da-da-da-da-da-da, the spoilers. When they're explaining the twist there, I did think that was kind of hand-holding. Hell, I figured that shit out almost immediately. But I think De Niro played his part really well. And to be honest, he is kind of reminiscent of old school 80s talk show hosts. I mean, they were pretty dry, too. I mean, they weren't exactly enjoyable. You can get away with so much more on television nowadays than you could back then. So crappy jokes and just regular talk was kind of all he could do.
I also thought that it made no sense that he invited Joker to his show. Like, what did you expect to happen inviting a crazy person to your show?
Like Joker says, you invited me just to make fun of me. And I've seen that in real talk shows. Sometimes the talk show hosts will bring someone who has blown up on the internet for doing something stupid onto their show, and they kind of make fun of them.
Okay, yeah, I agree with you there.
So, yeah, so I see entirely where they went with that. I thought it was good. The entire talk show scene was a really good nod to The Dark Knight Returns, the way that talk show scene plays out. Overall, I thought the movie was absolutely pleasing aesthetic-wise. It was a dark and gritty Gotham with a fantastic soundtrack. and powerhouse acting from most of the parties involved.
Ooh, I don't know about that, but I'm not gonna say anything about that.
I thought his mother did a great job, and I only got to see Alfred for a half a second in the movie, but I thought he did a good job. And the Waynes, I thought, did a good job. And no matter what you say, you didn't think the Waynes needed to be in the movie. It's Gotham City. The Waynes built that city, you asshat. You are the biggest idiot. Where's Joker gonna come from? Smallville? Joker coming from fucking Central City. Where's Joker from? Milwaukee.
Alrighty, I think that's a pretty good send off. Do you have any other last minute remarks, Porter?
Nope.
Nope, just no last minute remarks.
Nope.
Nope. Are you salty?
Nope.
You're salty.